a few housekeeping and different aspects to introduce our event. So I wanted to say hoichuka. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Senaqwila. I do the programming here with the Wild Bird Trust. So thank you all. And I also have my my lovely staff who I work alongside with, Rachel, also Leanne. So thank you all for being here today. One moment. I do also have our Facebook live stream. So if, we'll be able to take comments and questions, just so everybody knows that we also have other aspects, not only in our Zoom, but if people join in on the Facebook Live as well. So thank you all again for joining today. We will be viewing, and we're very thankful to have you here, Pierre, who will be giving very professional and insightful, valuable words about our exhibition. So it is open. So hopefully if you have not, that you will come and see it, and we'll be very happy if you have also came in already. So thank you. So we have to share about the Wild Bird Trust and with our exhibit. So many of you may have come and joined over the years, or maybe it's first time to join in. So either welcome back or welcome for the first time to come and join. So for this exhibit, we had the title Framing Our Relations as a nice title with our, as we already know, as well as the annual Wild Bird Trust photo exhibition. And so I'm from the Squamish Nation, and I wanted to share with you as part of, for my perspective as an Indigenous person, but also how we are, I guess you could say, rebuilding or fostering this connection. It's very important to, it's not only just to acknowledge the land as the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, to really do put our action to our words, and to see, for myself, I wanted to share with you all a teaching that was shared with me when you think about that, that part of our title as framing our relations. So of course we picture the framing part with photography and nature photography, but a teaching that was shared with me about rocks being the oldest beings on the planet as grandfathers, and plants and trees being the second oldest beings on the planet as grandmothers. And so then not only looking at plants and the different aspects of the beautiful landscape, but also looking at, as an Indigenous perspective, this was a conversation through our staff meetings of looking at how our wordplay would come into our title. And so when we have the relations part of bringing that aspect of something that we're seeing all the animals, the different aspects of our ecosystem as relations. So rather than seeing the human side of us as being separate from nature, but rather as seeing ourselves as connected and related to our fauna and flora. So I wanted to share that with you as we want to also do more inclusive programming to bring in our Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh community to be active and present within the landscape at Maplewood Flats. So thank you for listening to my words. I'm very grateful for you all to be here. As I mentioned, we have Pierre, award-winning wildlife photographer. He decided to fuse his two lifelong passions, birding and photography, over a decade ago when he and his family moved to Vancouver from Montreal. Since then, he has been striving to use his photography and other activities to support various conservation actions, including at Maplewood Flats. When he is not out in the field or with his family, Pierre is the executive director at the Graduate Student Society at SFU. So thank you for joining us today as we look out to our event today. A little bit of housekeeping, as we mentioned, to try and keep yourself muted. But we do invite you to, if you're comfortable, to have your camera on. We can all see each other's beautiful faces. So it's really nice to have, it sounds like there is a lot of community coming together. Some of you all know each other. That's very lovely. So thank you all for joining. We will be looking at a slideshow of our photos. We also have invited participants whose photographs have been selected to be in the exhibition. It'll be kind of an artist talk, a dialogue, conversation. So my coworker Rachel, as well as our guest Pierre and myself will be bringing a few, just a couple minutes each to all of our, we have a majority of our photographers in our meeting today. So thank you all for not only submitting photos, taking the time to be out walking around on the flats, and also to join in our event today. So we will be going over that beautiful slideshow. So if you have not gotten to see it yet, it's a very beautiful preview, but it looks very stunning in person as well. So we will be taking it that time to hear some feedback at all the photos, and as well to get a sense of, you know, what was the day like when you took your photos, and help to share that sense of that moment when you were on the flats taking your photography. So thank you. Go. Pass it to Rachel.
I think I'll pass it to Pierre. Pierre, right. Pierre's been a part of this exhibition for a number of years and has seen it evolve over time.
Yes, I think I was in the first one 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't get around to Maplewood as much as I would like, to be honest, recently. So we moved to Vancouver, in fact, from North Van, but I still go from time to time so I can get some photos, but I was really happy to see the variety of photos this time around. So yeah, I just love to watch the slideshow now and maybe make some comments. And yeah, if the photographers are here, maybe just let us know, right? So that they can maybe comment on the photo itself. That would be great as well, I think.
Okay, great. I'll get the slideshow started here.
Great.
Can everyone see that?
I can.
Great. Okay, so welcome to Framing Our Relations.
Lovely photo of the gallery.
Wild Bird Trust Photo Exhibition virtual tour. So our first photographer of the evening is Daniel Graca, who is here tonight.
So I don't know if Daniel wants to make a comment on this photo first, or hi, Daniel.
Hello. So yeah, I'm Daniel. Hello, everyone. This is a special photo to me because it's, you know, the new generation of the birds that everyone else can see around here. So this little merganser on his mother's back, I was out by the bridge at Maplewood, and it was a cold, rainy day, and this merganser female, she swam under the bridge and quite close to me, and then I noticed she had a little baby on her back. So it was a really, really cool experience to have them, especially super, super close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a great photo of a great behavior, actually, too. A common behavior for ducks, but you don't see it a lot because, of course, the small ones are are not that small for very long. So you don't, you know, we're going to have a very narrow window. So no, it's a great photo. And I love these photos that show behavior of the birds or animals. So no, very nice.
Thank you.
Okay. Great work, Daniel.
Yep. Lovely colors.
Thank you.
Yes. Glass hole. One has to be careful saying that.
This is by Tasha Rosa. Senaqwila, do you know if she's here this evening or is she at a youth conference? They at a youth conference.
Yeah, this is a really nice photo. I'm not sure. Are we looking at a hand or is it glass?
It's a piece of glass.
It's a piece of glass, yeah, which of course isn't great if you're walking on a beach. But no, it's really nice. I like the way it frames the sort of the boat in the background there, but then you still see the clouds and the mountains. Lovely colors too. I know, so it's quite a creative photo, as a matter of fact.
I don't think they have joined just by checking in participants right now. But I was at the workshop and they showed me a variety of their photos. So I do know firsthand that there is quite a bit of sea glass. So I know in our family, one of our aunts actually was very passionate about, mostly at Ambleside, but at quite a few beaches to look at the different colors of sea glass. So I was very intrigued because also with the title of our exhibition about framing,
yes,
we really think about the technical side of the camera, but yeah, I definitely was intrigued with the framing sense that it was I guess a bottle. So a glass that had been, you know, tossed around and aged around in the sea. So that the neck and that part of the bottle was we can't see because it's nice and zoomed in, but if we zoomed out, we would see the bottle was kind of wedged into some of the
I think it's bolognese or something.
into the
I don't know what it tastes like.
it was kind of wedged into some of the sea.
I think this one's good too, though.
Part of the
That's the only one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's good.
We're just gonna make sure everyone is muted. There we go. Thanks. So what I know that part of a glass bottle was wedged into some logs along the shoreline. So, that's how it was kind of perfectly set up, like a little viewing scope.
It's a really intriguing photo, actually. So it's quite nice. Yeah, and the framing, as you say, is it's perfect. Yes, so these are beautiful pine trees with, oh, by the way, there's a chickadee in there, which is really nice. Nice environmental photo, as I like to call them. I don't know, is the photographer here for this one?
Not this, no.
Yeah.
Not with us.
So again, you know, this is, you know, often for bird photography in particular, we like frames that are completely filled with the birds. But in this case, it's nice to have the pine tree be the star of the show in some ways, and then the chickadee is there feeding off of it, presumably, or just doing what chickadees do on a lovely summer day, apparently. So no, it's a really nice photo and well framed as well. And I like the way it frames. Again, the frame comes up again. It frames the bird, framed by the branches and by the needles. So, and lovely colors as well. So no, it's a nice, really nice photo.
And I just wanted to add for both of this and the previous slide that we're very excited to have participants who are from the Squamish people, the Squamish Nation. So I'm very glad that they were able to come and attend the workshop. And for me, it's very meaningful to get especially youth who are from the local nations to not only feel welcome, but really engage and interact with different programming that we have. So I wanted to acknowledge them as our Squamish youth who attended. Thank you.
Yeah, well, that is great indeed. Pine grosbeak. That is a nice, unusual bird to find at Maplewood, actually. This is the female, I believe, and a very lovely photo. Is Glenn there? I think I saw your name, Glenn.
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, that's great. That was a terrific find.
Yeah, that's a what they call it, Pacific crabapple that it is eating.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's a nice aspect of the photo as well, that it is eating, chomping on something. Always good to see what they eat as well. Yeah. You know, like to see exactly what it is they eat.
Yeah, it's actually I had to look it up because I was going to come on here. That Pacific crabapple is a staple of the First Nations diet for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
And they used it to preserve other things with it as well. So it was actually quite interesting when I looked it up.
Yeah, it makes sense, actually. And a lot of animals, a lot of birds and other animals eat them as well. So they're obviously, I mean, they must be nutritious. You know, people are clearly onto something there.
Yeah, and that was taken in December, so it stayed on the trees that long before the birds were actually picking them off. So, and
actually, yeah, that's a really interesting point. Often with photography, one thing that I recommend to everybody is take a look at those fruits that are still on in the winter, because they're often the very ripe ones, and then often because of the cool weather or the freeze, they become very sweet. So they can be a source of sugar for the birds. And so, and actually, if they ferment it a little bit too much, they can be a source of merriment as well.
Yes.
There's nothing quite so funny as a drunk bird, I believe. But in any event, but I'm not surprised at all that you found it, Glenn, on the tree like that, because it's that those fruits are really, they go after those because it really allows them to load up on the sugars, especially on cold winter days. Really important. So, I mean, for all of these reasons, I mean, this is a great photo because it also represents what this bird has to do to survive in the winter as well. But you have lovely colors, and the lighting is great and everything. And you have catch light in the eye, I see as well. So that's something I like to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to catch that.
Yep.
The ones that don't have that get deleted pretty quick.
That's right. That's good. Yeah, birds that have yellow eyes is maybe not so important, but for the ones with black eyes in particular, you really need to have that catch light so that they look alive, and you know, you can have a point of focus for the photo. Well, no, it's a good job, and I love these birds. I don't see them enough around here, so it's great that you found it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I wanted to just jump in and add that it actually brought to mind, I think it was in the last few years of the Osprey Festival, we had Will George share poetry and spoken word. He's from the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, and one of his poems that really stood out to me, because I'd never really done much bird photography before, but in his poetry, he was the imagery was of birds with salmon berries all on their beak. And for me, knowing quite a bit of how humans and maybe bears or deer interact with the berries, I really had not, I hadn't known. So this picture really kind of captures that, some of the poetry that Will had shared about the birds eating berries, or such as this with the crab apples, which are fairly small. So it's very, I like to see that connection that was shared from the Osprey Festival with us. So beautiful photo. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Thank you, Glenn.
Aha, speaking of ospreys, Ted Newell, is Ted here?
Yes, I am.
This is really great, actually. This is super challenging light situation, almost like the bird is backlit, actually, and so very difficult to get it to to get it so well exposed. And also the bird's position is just so dramatic in those claws. I mean, they're pretty amazing. So what were the circumstances of that? Because these birds are not always easy to get close to. So this is lovely.
It was in mid-July, few years ago, and I think it's a female, but I don't really know that. Was coming in to land on one of the piles, and I took about 50 photos, and this one was the one that got me there. So yeah, it was side lit from the right hand side of the photograph. It was a 400 millimeter lens, and don't know what else I could say about it. I don't take pictures of songbirds so much, but I wrote a list down here, and I've taken pictures of ospreys, great blue herons, oyster catchers, eagles, sandhill cranes, various seabirds, ducks of all kinds, albatross, ptarmigan, owls, geese, and they're all big, and they move much more slowly than songbirds. So
but they pose their own challenges in terms of taking the photo. So I mean, it's kudos for this, because it's not always easy to.
No, it was handheld.
Yeah, that's good. Well, that helps a lot. That's my favorite. I prefer to handhold. In fact, I'm kind of allergic to tripods, but that's just me. Yeah, no, this is a nice photo. And it's also like all these birds you mentioned, or most of them anyways, are so connected to the Salish Sea to me, and so like connected also to like the human presence as well in some ways, from like millennia on, and still with us now, of course. But no, really, and it's very evocative. I mean, and I love ospreys. They're one of my favorite birds. So I always see them. It's a treat to see them. So well done.
Thank you. I wanted to share one thing quickly, go back, but yeah, I was very amazed at the wingspan of it. Like the pure, like, it just looks very, I don't know, regal, I would say. But a few years ago, through some ceremonies, my mother and one of our dear friends, the late Hoya Baker, but there was a ceremony, and I don't know the exact cause. Like there was an osprey. It wasn't like hunted down, but there was an osprey that was deceased, and then some of the cultural leaders were able to use things like feathers from the deceased bird. But my mom had gifted me this osprey talon because they had shared it, mostly because I work at Maplewood Flats, and we have the Osprey Festival every year. But it was I've never really seen. I don't know. I don't really have a lot of the like taxidermy or anything like that. But they are, it's very. I could just really imagine them, hunting and getting the salmon or the fish out of the ocean, or that strong talon. So I just thought I wanted to share with you all that you can really see the resemblance in the photo to this one.
Yeah, I love the scale actually that you showed there. Like we see the scale, because that's big. Like that's almost the size of your hand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the size of an eagle's, which is like stunning when you see it up close. It's just like, oh my goodness, I don't want this thing to grab me. But even the osprey, right? Even on the photo, it looks kind of small, but it really isn't. And they are amazing when they catch fish. Like if you've seen them with the splayed hands catching the fish, then you see, okay, this is serious business. And it's lovely to have that, because of course it gives you the scale right away.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted.
Yeah, great photo. Ah, yes, ruby crowned kinglets. They're very cute birds, and from one extreme to the other. In terms of size, that's about the size of the claw we just saw there, just to give you an idea of scale. So is Kyle Harlan there today?
Hi, yeah, I'm here.
Yes, so could you talk about your lovely photo? I really like the colors and the pose of the bird in particular.
Sure, yeah, this was a photo that was taken this year in April, and I'm usually pretty excited to see just one or two kinglets, but this particular day, I was out with Jenny, who's sitting beside me, and we counted over 20 kinglets, ruby-crowned kinglets. And not only were they out in abundance, but many of them were showing off their crowns, which is always really exciting to see. So you can't see it in this one, but we did get a good view of this one's crown as well. But with kinglets, they move so fast that really I'm just happy if I can get one that's almost all in frame and not too blurry. So this is one of the ones I ended up from that day.
Yeah, from experience, I know how difficult it is to photograph these birds. So well done. And I really, as I said, I really like the pose there. It's almost like it's going to take off. So I don't know if that was actually the case there, but it gives a really good idea of motion. That's the thing you need to know with these birds. They just never stop. And it's amazing you even got what you got, given especially how busy it is with the branches, right? Because you had all the leaves were out. And so typically I'm able to get the shots when it's winter and there's no leaves to distract my camera. But when you have the leaves, it's really hard to do it. So well done. And I like again, the framing, right, of this in its natural habitat is really interesting. So no, it's a good shot. And these are just very cute birds.
They are. Yeah, I have about 100 other photos where it's not focused or the branches in front of it, but this is one.
Well, my favorite photos of, photographers think that, this is what you get, right? And then you have like an eagle, say, full frame. But then I show photos of either a leaf where there used to be a kinglet, or you see the tail of the kinglet, or the bum of the kinglet or whatever, but just no particular whole kinglet. So the fact you even got it in there mostly is pretty good.
Yeah, oh, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to just echo in Rob, your comment in the chat about it's hanging like the Indian plum flowers that it's next to. So that's definitely a hard angle, because you would kind of picture mostly birds maybe in the flying motion or sitting on the branch, but that motion definitely, it's just like it's the pose. I would almost think of a cat where they're ready to pounce, but this bird is in motion, but the stillness as well, it's very beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Rob Lisk, I think I saw you in the list of people here with a least sandpiper.
Yes.
Yes, and the peeps, they're very hard to photograph. Would I be right to think that in the background there, that's a Western sandpiper?
Yes, I believe it was.
Okay, the bill length is different. Okay.
I think they were semi-palmated in this group as well. All three of the peeps together.
That is cool. Well, that's very cool. Now, this is a great photo too. I love the fact also on the ground that you see the various parts of the habitat, right, that it's in and what it feeds off of. I'm assuming they were feeding, correct?
Yes.
And so I really like that aspect of the photo. In fact, you see it with like focus, because often it's not either not there at all or it's in the background and unfocused, but right here it's right under the bird's feet, so you can see it very clearly and detail with the different plants and other matter. So no, it's cool. It's a really nice photo. And again, these sandpipers they can be difficult to photograph because they move so much. So where was that in the where did you take that on the flats?
Just adjacent to the West Salt Marsh.
Yes.
There's a little sandy beach.
Yeah.
And the tide was bringing the birds to me, but I probably waited for well over an hour for that to get close enough.
Yeah.
Just sat there and waited.
Yeah, that's the best technique with these birds, right? just sitting there, and they will eventually come to you, along with the tide, right? If the tide is coming in, yeah, typically and that is another thing I like about these birds, is that just the fact that they're where they are is connected to the tides, you know, and it's fascinating to me to think like there's this back and forward all day, right? And they find various nutrients depending on where they are along the mud flats and the beach. But then also, like here, I just love the detail of the feathers and the bird itself. So no, it's a lovely photo.
Thanks.
Would you say that the pattern of its feathers is mostly for kind of camouflaging when it's in the sanded area?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a biologist, but I would think that the patterns are a bit too similar from one to the other. I mean, actually, and I think Bob, you'll confirm that it can be a little difficult sometimes to tell them apart, especially if you're in a hurry. Yeah. If you have time to observe them, and especially if you can hear them, of course, then that tends to, you know, you can tell them apart. But yeah, I think so. And it's like no matter what size they are, they tend to have that pattern. It's actually very common in sandpipers to have this pattern. And so, like if you're thinking of birds like, well, obviously the songbirds, but I'm trying to think of another kind of family where you might have a lot more variety in the color of the feathers. With sandpipers, there's actually not a heck of a lot of difference. And that's around the world. And so, yeah, it must be a camouflage element. It could also be where they nest in terms of, so it could be that a lot of them nest up north, and it could be that the rocky terrain on which they do their nests, when they're lying down, I suspect they're almost impossible to see. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because the sanderlings, if you know the sanderlings, they become this sort of beautiful creamy white, creamy gray color in winter. But in summer, they're much more like the sort of standard sandpiper. So that would it might be a nesting issue. That's my guess. But again, I'm sure an ornithologist would be able to, to tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'll just say two more things that like usually I've really seen, I think, photos of them, or even when I'm walking around, seeing them mostly in like a sandy colored area. So they kind of do blend in. That's just what I kind of pictured. But really the colors of, like, I think there's some crab shells in there, and the twigs, and all the different varieties of like the bull kelp and the different like kind of seaweeds. It's the color is like, it kind of like, even though the bird itself, it's not the most like, you know, magnificent showy colors, but it just looks very it looks really nicely with that kind of contrast of the bright seaweed and the different variety of if it's ecosystem that it's in there. And then I also really like that it's one that you have to kind of take that moment to be still and wait for them to come to you, because I think that's a very important aspect of engaging within photography with animals and within nature, is to not like, even with other animals, like with bears, we don't want people to start thinking, I'll just go right up and interact with them. Of course, but sometimes people do that.
Yeah, they do, unfortunately. And yes, and that's the thing, right? That the reason that I think Rob got this very relaxed pose in a way is that you let the bird come forward, right? And then it is much more relaxed, and it's much more actually acting as it would normally. And so that really makes for a better photo. I agree entirely with that. And I encourage people to try to get their birds to be not stressed whenever possible.
Thank you, Rob. Lynn's Marsh.
Lynn's Marsh, yes. Spotted Toy. Is Lynn's here?
Hi, I'm here.
Oh, wonderful. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi.
I think we've often exchanged on Instagram. I'm not sure that I've actually ever met you. But
I've met both of you once, and you were both leading tours. So
okay.
for that.
Well, that's appropriate.
Yes. Thanks so much for including me in this exhibition. I love seeing everyone's photos and listening to the comments. I just want to say I'm thankful for speaking to you from the unceded ancestral lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people.
Thank you, and so am I, actually. So yeah, I want to acknowledge that as well. So Lindsay, but what were the circumstances of this photo? It's really great, and I'll say after why I think I really like it, but go ahead.
Oh, sure. Yeah, well, as many people know, spotted towhees are a relatively common bird around Metro Vancouver, but I never get tired of seeing, these sparrows. They're so striking to look at, and they're so interesting to watch when they're scratching in the leaf litter. So, I was just on one of my walks around Maplewood Flats. I love going birding there. And there was quite a few song sparrows and spotted towhees around, and I just crouched down and waited a few moments, and this one sort of let me take a couple shots of them foraging on what looks like some juicy berries. And Pierre, you mentioned that these berries might be sweeter in winter. This was taken last January, so I'm curious if this is a local berry or not. Native berry too.
That I would not know. I am more into birds than plants. So I have to profess my ignorance.
Where did you take the photo? Because I know a few locations. Yeah, I was trying to picture that as well. Of
yeah, I believe it was on one of the Western trails, sort of just as you're leaving the nature house area and wrapping around.
Yeah, I was trying to picture, because I know for during the winter that there are there's different, mostly with like kinnikinnick or called bearberry. There's lots of kinnikinnick, but it looks a little bit too dark. So it could also be the plant might have been there are hawthorns there as well that are quite similar to that color. And I know that there are hawthorns on the site. But yeah, I liked kind of for berries, or like trying to look at plant colors in comparison, because the redness of the bird's eye really shows how it's more of a deeper red. So I would kind of compare that. I think it may not be a kinnikinnick berry, just because those are a very, I would say, more of like a true, like bright, almost that kind of Christmassy red color, whereas the eye is much more of that. But yeah, it's like it's like bigger than its own eye. It's very cute. It's like ready to eat the berries. I would, that's my best guess.
Yeah, and I have a feeling I know where you took this, because I know there's a spot there when you're walking from the nature house, you go over the bridge and then you go into the western part. There's a trail, like the bottom trail there, the one that's not too far from the ocean. There's a couple of spots there where I've always reliably seen towhees, and they're often foraging on the ground. Either, I don't know, they might eat insects, but certainly for berries as well. And this I like because you see the color of the leaves and everything. This is so typical, such a typical place for them to be, but it's very difficult to get them in those, because typically, like when you take them, they'll be like in boring grass or something. But this is really nice that they're in the middle. They're in the middle of the leaves, and this is very much their habitat. And as you say, they scratch there, and they seem to have a boundless amount of energy to do that. So you get the feeling there of this photo, even though it's kind of like resting and eating, but you have a feeling that it had to work to get this berry. So no, it's a great photo, and that red eye is just amazing. So no, nice photo actually.
Yeah, I like when you said that it was really scratching in the leaves, that there's that Himalayan blackberry leaf behind it, and there's kind of like a tear in the leaf. So it's kind of like, it's not the most like clean, like picture perfect leaves where it almost looks like fake plants, but it's that raw, like the change of season, and there's the the leaves with holes, probably from that bird was poking through to find if there is anything underneath. So it's very, as you said, with it's in its natural state, not like a posed kind of like fake leaves or fake plants.
Yeah, that's right. Well done, Linz.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Linz.
The river otters.
Yeah. We wanted to include as much species diversity in the exhibition this year. So these otters really, we took notice of them.
And Jeffrey, I see you're there. Yeah, I love this photo. I love the fact that they're looking away there somewhere, like they're obviously interested by something. I'd love to know what it is. But what were the circumstances? I have a feeling I know where you took this photo because I've seen them there before. If you could tell us where you got them and what the circumstances were. I think you're muted.
I've asked him to unmute.
Yeah.
Can't hear the audio for some reason.
Yeah, Zoom has been bad this week.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of problems at work with Zoom.
Sometimes there's more than one microphone as an option, and you have to pick the right one. That
I know it is quite complicated sometimes. Yes.
Hi, Jeffrey. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Maybe move on to someone else and come back a little later.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's try that.
Other options, we could have you write it in the chat and we can share or read it if the mic doesn't get fixed. But
lovely photo, really beautiful. You get the energy of these incredible animals. Yeah, and so intelligent. Yep. Now, downy woodpecker. This is an amazing photo. So difficult to get them here, strangely. So as my bio said, I'm from out east, and out east, they're relatively easy to see, spot, and photograph, but I find them really hard to photograph here in the Vancouver area. So Susie, I see you're there.
I'm here. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, the great photo.
Thank you. Yeah, that was actually taken last December, and I was on the inner trail. I was actually busy photographing a flicker when I caught something out of the corner of my eye, and it was as if he was posing for me.
That's right. And I love the fact that this is not close to the feeders. Now, I know the feeders are down now and they're gone, but the thing is really nice that it's also quite relaxed, this bird. So it did, as you say, it just looks like it just landed there and posed for you very quietly, and amazing, actually, really.
Yeah, usually they're quite frenetic, you know, always on the go.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's right. No, and I like that. And I like the texture also of the wood along the side there, and the fact that you've got the bokeh, so the blurred background. It's really lovely. No, it's a very nice photo. And these are, and the other thing too is you see the crown exceptionally well. Usually from the side like that, the crown almost like disappears. You really see it well from the back, but then if it turns its head for a better photo like this, you don't see the crown at all. But this one is really, so clearly he was intent on showing you his best side.
Yeah, it almost looks like a painting, really, with just that beautiful, the brightness of all his of all the downy woodpeckers, different colors and patterns, and with that little hidden crown popping out, but I definitely am very drawn to that, the kind of the talons, like feeling in the texture of the wood as well. I feel like even though the like lichens and the branch is kind of like very kind of, it's not a standout color, but the way that the patterns really show how the birds interact with even like a very small twig or tree, that they can kind of wedge their little feet right inside and have a really good cling to stay there. Very beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, and as you said about another photo, this doesn't look like a photoshopped leaf or you know, or branch or something. This is real. So this branch has seen life. So yeah, no, it's really good. It's a really great photo.
Thank you.
Yes, so squirrel going for the berry, for the prize or whatever else. Yeah, I like the energy of this photo, and just to see its little hand sort of going into getting the berry. It's cool. So are you there, Jan? Are you there for the?
Yes.
Where was this taken actually?
Just as you come out of the trail on the east side, just before you get to the bridge, there's a little pocket in there.
Right.
And I actually had my camera out and was looking for a picture or trying to get a picture of a bird. And I heard a rustling and I just swung my camera, caught one photo, and then he was gone. So it's, you know, like most nature photography, right place, right time, and your camera's out.
Exactly, especially with squirrels, because they don't sit around a long time.
No, and I just thought it was so great the way his tail was curled over and you got to see his tail. So
right, I like the texture of the tail very much. Like the fur there, it's just you want to sort of, you want to touch it. So
yeah, so I mean, he was there for a second and was gone.
Yeah, I really like also the angle, and that there's, I think I kind of like a branch or something on the side that's kind of out of focus, but it definitely, yeah, you can tell it was such like in the spur of the moment that you cannot make them pose or anything, like unless they stop and look for a second. But like it's definitely a different angle than you would normally see them. It's usually them like running up the tree kind of underneath, or them kind of you know, like running on the road, or like different angles. So I definitely really never have seen many photos of this angle, and definitely I love that reaching motion of the
well, you usually see them on the railings on the bridges and on the fences. That's where you most often see them. So it's nice to see them in the bush.
Yes,
definitely think that's actually so this, I believe, is the singleberry hawthorn. So I don't, looking at the size scale, I don't think that previous photo was a hawthorn, just because it must have been much a smaller berry. So that one definitely is the hawthorn. Yeah, good heart medicine. So maybe it was tiny little hearts racing fast, and good medicine for them.
Little squirrel panic attack. Yeah, that's right. No, great photo.
Thanks.
Yes. Daniel, are you there to talk about this magnificent duck photo? Wood ducks.
Yes. Hi there. How are you? Thank you for having me. It's very exciting. Yeah, so I guess I started my photography journey last year, actually. And my goal this day was actually, I really wanted to try and play with duck reflections. However, it didn't turn out that way as the waters were a bit murky. So I decided to take a break and just watch this wood duck along with a female wood duck. And I thought, I'm just going to take a break. I'm just going to sit and I'm just going to enjoy. And he hopped up on the log and started taking a drink. And I just loved the little pools of water from when he was drinking. And I thought, to heck with the reflection. This is I've got to capture this one. So I've definitely learned this past year that sometimes you can go out with an intent, but you never know what you're going to get. And sometimes you end up capturing something maybe that you enjoy more. And I've definitely learned a lot of patience.
That's a great philosophy, actually.
Yeah.
I really must say, like, as a frequently frustrated photographer, I take it to heart. You're quite right. It's, you get the shot you get. Don't get the one you wish you got, but get the one you can get. And this is certainly a case of a great situation there, as you say. The little concentric circles there with the water clearly shows, okay, it was drinking there. Probably just before you took this photo, a drop fell in there, and just at that spot. And it's a very cool photo, actually. So of a beautiful bird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really love how, even though the bird himself is very still, but that movement of the water dripping down, making like multiple ripples. And yeah, definitely. I mean, of course, the colors are so bright with the eyes and the different patterns, but definitely, yeah, I'm so used to seeing them like with their tails sticking out when they're diving underneath, or that different movement. But it really was kind of taking a drink and just paused and looked over, and that was such a perfect moment. I definitely think that's so interesting of everyone's. I love how everyone's sharing kind of the day or the moment, as kind of, you might go out thinking one thing you might find based on, you know, the weather, the season, what birds or what you might find, but it's always something that you may never expect. And it turns out really great, that little moment that's captured. Thank you.
Yeah, and Maplewood's a good place for that, actually, as well. For like, if you're expecting something, you're almost always certain to get something else. So you never go home entirely disappointed.
Never.
Yeah.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you so much.
Aha. There's a coop. Love it. Is David here?
Yes, I am. I hope my microphone's working.
Yes, it is. We can hear you loud and clear.
Good stuff.
This is a really good photo. I really like the attitude of this bird, and it's looking at us like, don't mess with me. Where was this taken?
This was taken it was just west across the West Coast Bridge, along the trail between Burrard Inlet and Wet Meadow.
Sorry about that.
And did you what was it? Do you know if it was hunting at that moment, or?
It was.
Okay.
I originally thought the subject was a sharp-shined hawk, but I'll get it right one of these days. But I believe he or she was hunting, and wasn't too, I mean, I had a 600 millimeter lens. I was quite far away, and I of course do never try and stress the subject out. But he or she seemed to be quite curious of me and just allow me to snap shot after shot after shot, which seemed like it was pretty close to about an hour. I think I was the one who actually walked away and gave he or she a break.
Yep. No,
but it was a beautiful morning in October. The sun was just coming up over Burrard Inlet, and it was just perfect. And usually light and trees and the leaves, the branches are my worst enemy. But it was just, I finally found the right angle, and there you go.
Yeah, and I mean, this is good. This is a good, like, from just a photography point of view as well. I mean, the lighting challenges there are pretty big, because you have a very bright background, and the bird itself is pretty dark. So, you did a really great job of calibrating that correctly and getting a good exposure there. But I also, as I said, just it's that look it gives you. Goodness, it's don't mess with me. It really is. Those are, I've seen coops on a few occasions, and one time in particular, there was a bunch of hawks that were dumb enough to try to, a bunch of crows dumb enough to try to harass one. And at some point, basically it turned on and said, okay, I'm going to eat one of you if you don't stop this. And needless to say, they left. So it was fascinating, but seeing it fly around was really incredible. But this is like still without flying, right? You're still seeing, okay, this bird is ready to pounce. So that's the feeling I get when I look at this photo. Yeah, they can be, as you say, they can be strangely inquisitive of humans. I have occasionally seen that, and I'm not sure what does that, because sometimes they don't want to be anywhere near you. So it's quite fascinating. But no, great photo.
Many thanks.
And the feathers look like there's like a backlighting coming out. I really like that. And how all the leaves, it's kind of reminds me of like the flow of the ocean of waves, even though it's the tree branches. But yeah, with hawks, like sometimes like those kind of birds of prey are also seen of as really like majestic and very respected. As we see like the eagle for a lot of Coast Salish or Indigenous peoples, we see like the eagles, because they fly the highest, they're often seen of as like a messenger. So it's usually of kind of like a good omen or good luck seeing them, or often during like very ceremonial occasions. There's a lot like in Tsleil-Waututh and Squamish people, there's often like huge circling eagles above very cultural significant events. But also hawks are also a little bit similar, but that very usually seen of as a very good sign of kind of like as a blessing or a good sign that you know, like sometimes on kind of not as a quite as serious, more of kind of, I would think it a little bit silly, but like for myself, like my mom or a lot of like aunties or a lot of even elders as well, like if you're out for a drive and then for a lot of Indigenous people will say, oh, like hoichika, like thank you, we see an eagle or we see a hawk, even along the North Shore, just sitting on you know, on the highway on a lamppost or something. But definitely I love the in this particular photo that it was kind of eyeing you. So it's a very like it's almost like you could hear it like ready, waiting to talk to you or something. It's trying to send some kind of message. So very beautiful photo. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Did the bird move around a lot, or?
Along the branch, because right below the branch, there was this clearing, a little bit of clearing. So I believe, obviously, there was a hunting going on. So I actually have more shots of different positions of the subject on the branch, you know, looking down, looking at me, looking around. So it didn't really move off the branch too much, but along the branch and different sides of the branch and positioning himself or herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's another thing too with the birds of prey. It's often good to make sure that you leave an area, as you did there, leave an area underneath it that's clear, because that's where it's going to hunt most likely. And as much as you don't disturb the ground too much, like, because that's what's going to end up driving away its prey. But if it can have access to prey, typically, I mean, if it's hunting, it will find stuff. I've found that time and time again. You think, oh, I'm going to bother this bird, but ultimately, no, they will find the prey, so long as you don't trample right over it, right? So, no, it's a good photo, and you're lucky to have gotten these. They're very difficult to get in such a successive series of great photos. So, no, nice job, David.
Thank you so much, Pierre. And everyone else.
Hi, folks. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Good.
And this is a great find. Cinnamon teals are not abundant at Maplewood, so no, this is fantastic. Especially that you got a pair.
Well, I was lucky.
Very cool. Very cool.
You're right about. You're right about cinnamon teal. They don't nest in Vancouver or Maplewood. These ones are on their way to Alberta. Mm-hmm. And so it just shows how important the ponds are at Maplewood, because these birds will just come here, these ducks rather will come here just for a few days, and refuel, refresh, and then they're on their way.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a very short span of time. This was April.
Mm-hmm.
And because ducks, the male and the female, are different, for me, it was a case of being over at the Park Street Marsh, which is a little pond that dries out each summer at the north end of the West Salt Marsh, and just waiting, because the male and the female, they were swimming around, but they weren't together. And I wanted them to be together. So I just had to wait and wait. And then eventually they decided to swim together. So I said, yes, good. You're together. I can take a photo. And so, and you know, another cool thing I found out later about photography is that I've always thought of cinnamon teal as the male is cool looking, you know, bird with the cinnamon. And then when you take the photo and you look at it, you realize, look at the size of the bills, because these are small ducks and they got this massive bill. And then I read up a bit and find out that they use it as a strainer to sort of sieve out the food when they get to Alberta, and even in the Park Street Marsh too, for that matter. And so that was kind of cool. But the ponds, and I really appreciate site manager Alejandro, and previous to that, Ernie, who've done lots of work, because these ponds are super important at Maplewood. And I just want to give a shout out to Rob Lisk, because Rob built the lookout on the west side of the big pond, so we could all enjoy the birds and the ducks. So thanks, Rob.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're quite right. And the bills are impressive. I mean, they're much bigger than you would think.
Yeah.
But I also like the fact that you have the male and the female in there, and the female ducks are often, they're quite beautiful in their own right. The males are always, you know, the more spectacular ones, in the ducks in particular. But the females can be quite beautiful. And what's interesting here is just, you tell, like, this is just the same species. You just know it, looking at it, that just, you know, the bill size is the same. I mean, they're actually pretty much the same size, in fact. So no, this is a great photo. And it really, you know, and it shows, you know, as you say, it shows the importance of those ponds as a rest place for these migrating birds. And that's actually, like, perhaps one of the most significant parts of what Maplewood does, right? To help migrating birds get to where they need to go alive. And so that's incredible, that to think that this site, which was destroyed by industry, now is come back to life 50 years later. And thanks to the foresight of a lot of people, including, of course, the First Nations who are there. And just, it's amazing, really. So kudos for this photo, but also, like, what it says, right? The message that it sends.
Yeah, I've been at Maplewood walking around long enough to remember an auto shop at Maplewood, right in that clearing where all the cement is, in the sort of the Westwoods. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it's gone. I'm glad it's no longer there.
That's for sure.
That's beautiful. Yeah, as you described, that these will be really around April is when they'll be migrating through it. As you say, as a human, as you witness seeing where it is today and all the labor and the planning that goes into it, but then even as a human, you see it was forested. It was, you know, this. There was like urban dumping happening there, and then there was an auto body shop there, but now that is gone, and all the community effort that goes into, I think, just really as humans speaking on behalf of the animals, of saying not only the indigenous plants and animals that are already there year round, but then the migrating species. So this little pair of the birds will be like, I need to come back every single year, and I need to stop here. It's just kind of a little bit similar to, you know, to humans. Like, we want to go on our, you know, maybe a yearly trip by whatever format that we're traveling, as Coast Salish would be by canoe traditionally, or today we might be planning our trips on, you know, by car or taking a ferry, but for the birds to have their own transportation with their wings, but definitely having that, that kind of, that reassurance that, that we have to make sure that we have those species, and we have those different, so much work that goes into making sure that the actual pond itself, so that they're ready. It's kind of like making a making the home ready. Oh yeah, Erwin's gonna just share some of that imagery. So to bring that, you're on share screen.
Yeah. This is 1950s, but 1920s and 1950s. So that's, we're looking at the barge channel.
Wow.
And this is 1929.
Wow. Holy cow.
Right, so look at the destruction, the loss of
Yeah,
habitat.
no, that's crazy.
So this is where we are.
Yeah, yeah.
Here. But if you go back even further, this is before the settlers assumed any control. These are the first lines on the map, right? So the terra nullius assumption that somehow this was unused land waiting for the white settlers to take and draw these lines out on a map. Suddenly it wasn't Tsleil-Waututh, even though this beautiful research that came out this week, I don't know if folks have read this article in different scientific journals, but it's a research proving that Tsleil-Waututh stewarded salmon in Broad Inlet 2300, 400 BCE to 1200 CE. So 2,000 years ago, Tsleil-Waututh there's evidence, scientific data that shows they were stewarding the fish around here. So if they're stewarding the fish, they were stewarding the birds, they're stewarding the habitat. So we've come we followed an unfortunate path. And so we're really very committed to what we call repairing these cultural and ecological relations. And that's what we're doing. And we're grateful everybody's doing this work together. Back to you, Rachel.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Erwin. It's super interesting. And I know that all along the coast and in the Salish Sea, both in Canada and US, they're discovering this same point that you just made, that it's been centuries actually that the ecosystem has been shepherded by the various peoples who are there. And sometimes in extremely elaborate things too. So quite amazing understanding of it, in fact. So thanks, Quentin, for this photo. It's really great, great indication of the importance of Maplewood, I think, and lovely photo as well.
Thank you.
Tasha.
Yes, heron on a stick. Love it.
Hello.
Hi, yeah, that's a great photo. Great photo. Where was this taken?
I believe I was on the bridge, like facing up the river, but I've taken 100,000 photos at Maplewood, so I can't be sure.
Yep, our brains are not made for that many photos.
Yeah.
But no, this is really nice, and it shows us an element of herons, right? They often perch. It's quite strange actually for such big birds to do this, but they're often perched like this, and not necessarily hunting either, or just often just resting or just looking around, or maybe they are checking out the water as well to see if they see fish moving in there. But no, it's a very well done photo, and you use the rule of thirds very well, but also like showing the rest of its habitat. So in fact, you know, they're often more of a forest animal than we know. And part of it is that also one of the reasons often you see their neck outstretched is that they try to sort of parallel the sticks of the trees behind them. And so they often use that as a sort of decoy, and that's why they're so still. It's a fascinating thing to think that they're both a water bird and a forest bird in a way. And I'm sure that, First Nations lore, no doubt, and knowledge would know this, would be able to describe it actually.
Yeah, that's actually very fascinating, because the kind of oral histories that I have been taught about actually the great blue heron is through many different Salish, both coastal and interior Salish. There's a lot of crossover with similar meanings to different animals, that there's a lot of very similarities. And for many of the different Salish oral histories that I have been told about, for the great blue heron is having actually very much, as you mentioned, with both its legs and its neck, that there was what we have in our oral histories are the transformers. So they're very sacred beings. Sometimes they're referred to as the highs or the hulls, depending on which dialect of Salish languages, but also other names for interior as well. But a lot of the stories relating to the highs or the transformer beings, that there are 4 siblings that were these sacred transformation, that not only they could transform themselves, but if any of you have heard about the Tsleil-Waututh Rock at Stanley Park is one of the most prominent examples where that actually Tsleil-Waututh is a more of a actually derogatory term relating into like French for savage. But the Squamish name actually sounds slightly similar, but it's a very different meaning. So with that transformer, it was a person, and that rock, we call it Slachelsh, and that means standing rock. But the transformers will transform people based on different teaching, sometimes in kind of a trickster kind of sense, but also more also even kind of like putting you in your place. So if you were acting very disrespectfully, for example, or if someone was very respectful, then they would be honored, kind of eternally transformed into something. So many different ways. But with the great blue heron, those the long neck and legs, there was stories that were shared with me about I don't know if it was maybe transformed from a different bird, but even from like a scientific aspect, when we think about animals like adaptations, how they're accustomed to that ecosystem that they're in. But with the great blue heron, that those kind of adaptations or those kind of noticeable aspects of its anatomy with the long neck, like I've seen them hunt, like I guess fishing, where they kind of like, they're kind of hidden and then they like really like shoot their necks out or have their legs like very perched specifically. But there's quite a bit of history with relating, kind of explaining that they were trying to hunt, but the transformers wanted to help them be better fishers, because there was like rivers that there was not much rocks, or it was very like rough terrain that you couldn't get to a certain location that was safe, that you wouldn't fall into the water. But there were certain rocks that that they would be able to sit in, that was like really very any space to stand on. But the structure of they transformed like hunting, or like fishing poles that would be built into the bird itself. So I've definitely seen them like firsthand when they're going to go eat, like catch their dinner. So I definitely it's very beautiful within Indigenous storytelling to see how like giving those kind of creation stories, or even in a scientific lens, bringing in that Indigenous knowledge, that we see those like adaptations or the different very unique kind of like body features or things that like the way that they hunt are very unique, or I guess fish are unique to that species, or you don't like, it's not just every bird in this ecosystem that you see with those long legs, which is really quite a very large body. And then these like long legs that they seem so thin, but then the bird itself is very large, and like its name, the great blue heron. So quite a bit of beautiful storytelling with how they hunt. I keep saying hunt because I kind of picture them hunting, but how they're fishing and how their body very much it relates to the tree life and how they interact with the ocean.
Yeah, and I don't want to get into a debate here about hunting and fishing, but in the case of the herons and about whether they're a raptor or not, that's an even worse question to ask, especially to a bird person. But the whole point, though, is that actually they will catch anything. And so they've been known to catch like rats and muskrats and frogs. And so not just fish. And they will take on some big mammals sometimes, you know, like pretty large rats have succumbed to herons. So I think hunting is actually a very appropriate term, whether it's a fish or not. But I'm not surprised to hear there's so much knowledge about this, because this bird is fascinating to watch. And I think this photo kind of evokes it really for me, because it's not just sitting in the water, it's on the branch. It's like, what is it? Why is it there? Does it rest there? Does it survey its environment? You know, I don't know if it moved a lot when you were taking it, Tasha, but you know, sometimes they can stay still for a long time.
Yeah, he sat there for a long time.
Yeah.
Like the previous person, I think I left before he did.
Yes. Which is, you know what? I always feel myself personally that I've done my job if the bird is still there and hasn't moved. Like, yeah. I feel like, okay, great. I didn't scare it off, and it actually outweighed me. Super. So, you know, and I'm happy to leave it, and I thank it for the moment it gave me, and then I leave, you know, so no, it's great. It's good. And I like the fact that you see the forest as well in this photo. It's a nice, it's very evocative.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think like their eyes look very almost camouflage. So it could have been looking at so many detailed, but because their eyes look camouflage, we don't, it's kind of sneaky. We think it's just maybe sitting still as a statue, but it's mapping out. I would imagine, I would think is how I've heard, is that they really do kind of scan the whole area, observe everything that they're like. I don't know how they've seen, like I've seen again the fishing with like it was sitting, I saw one sitting very still on a shoreline, and then how it saw fish. Like I'm like, I didn't see any of those fish in the water, but they must probably observe the school of fish, their patterns of how they move, knowing the tides and when the right timing is. They'll stay still for an hour and then know when to strike.
Well, when you think about how difficult it would be too, because they're looking at the fish through the lens of the water. And so in fact, it's not as if the animal was outside. Like, it's tough enough like for an owl or a bird of prey to hunt when it's hunting just, you know, in air. But this bird is out in the air, and it has to go get the fish like instantly under the water. So, I mean, I think most humans, if they tried to do that, I mean, you know, we'd look foolish. So for most of us, I mean, I do know some people are very good at it, but it takes years of practice. So no, it's quite extraordinary. They're amazing birds.
Thanks, Tasha.
Yeah, thanks for the photo. Rob, I hope you're here, Rob.
I don't think he is.
This is a lovely photo of a deer, and it looks so pensive. And again, the deers tend to be so nervous and here he just sort of catches it, sort of like just almost ruminating, or I don't know what it's doing, but it's a really great photo. I really love this photo that Rob took. So sorry he's not here, but
yeah, I'm sure he would have had lots to say of
the
species and the
Rob, yeah.
Leanne says it was right behind the nature house.
Yes.
He and Elgrass were sitting together.
Yes.
Definitely, I can picture. I personally have only seen mostly the mother and maybe does, but I have not myself seen any of the bucks. So I think that's a very magnificent kind of timing, that it's like the horns, antlers are really just starting to, you can see that little fuzziness.
Little fuzzy, yes.
Like baby antlers. So that's very, I would say quite a rare photo. Definitely, it looks a nice angle.
Yeah, I've actually myself also often seen deer back there. Like as you say, mostly the female and the young, never a male, unfortunately. But this is really lovely. Yeah, no, it's a nice photo that Rob took there. And it's a good place to find it too, because it's fairly cleared out, but you still have trees in the back, so you can get some. Again, the framing. Like I really like the fact that you chose this as a. Because here the framing is everything, right? Framed by the sort of tall, not grasses, but whatever those plants are in front of it, which it may have been munching previously. And then in the background, you have the trees and the leaves, and it's very lovely. Looks like this was taken in spring. Is that possible?
I would imagine so as well, based on like I would imagine that the antlers are in spring as well, yeah. And that it does look. My best guess for the plants behind would be snowberry, as they don't really have many flowers yet. Yeah, Leanne says I believe late spring, so definitely based on not only the animal but the plants definitely look like that lush springtime.
The shade of green. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, this photo. Brad, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, this is a perfect reflection photo. If you had flipped it under the other way around, I would not have been able to tell where was the bird and where was the water. So where did you get this? This is pretty extraordinary to have the water so flat in Maplewood.
Yes, this was early morning back at the beginning of August. I just walked down the main path to, I think it's Osprey Point by the bridge. And yeah, I saw the heron just out on a bit of a patch of shore amongst the water, and it slowly started walking out into the water. So I repositioned up on the bridge and got there just in time, just before it took off, and I managed to get a few quick photos of it. And then it had eventually circled down to the rocks just below Osprey Point. So I moved around and started fishing there, and eventually came up with a little fish. But yeah. No,
it's beautiful, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, very nice photo. And again, challenging light conditions. The sun's not behind you, is it?
No, it's
this one. Yeah, that's tough. And so again, the exposure is really good too. Very difficult to get this kind of photo right. So lovely.
Thanks.
Yeah, it really makes me think with like a lot of Tsleil-Waututh, with the like canoeing, like always observing the water condition. So that really made me think of like as canoers would like look at the ocean and be like, if it's like lots of white caps and like, okay, I don't want to go travel anywhere in the inlet right now. But then that must have been one of those perfect for canoe pullers. Oh, like it looks like glassy. It's just a perfect glass like state that the water is in. So definitely, I even imagine right near that location that James Harry has that art installation of the metal, that kind of negative outline art of the heron. So it's almost like that artwork is really mirroring, and this is bringing that motion to life of the herons like diving right just above the surface of the water. So that's really, yeah, what an amazing capture. Just as you said, if it was upside down, just only barely really by the head and neck, but it looks such a perfect reflection that really, what a moment to have your camera and be there. And I'm sure in person it even looked very beautiful as well. Yeah, beautiful photo.
Thanks.
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah,
thank you.
Brad. Bernard, are you here? White-faced hornet.
Yep, I'm here.
Again, amazing photo. I love this. A perfect example of macro photography. Again, where was this taken in Maplewood?
It was a very gray day in August, I believe. And I was walking back out after looking for birds, and then walked by the nature house and saw the snowberries. And I thought might be a nice contrast with the white berries with the darker background. So I popped my macro lens on and I saw this hornet. And again, like you do with birds, be very careful. I didn't want to disturb it. And I just got closer and closer. It was busy feeding. And I like trying to tell stories with my photos. And I thought this is a nice story to tell. You can see it's doing something. So that's.
Yeah, it's dipping its head in there. It's really trying to get I am assuming it's trying to get the pollen. Again, probably desperately looking for that sugar. No, this is a fantastic photo. So really quite nice. And I want to take up a bit of macro photography myself. So it's an inspiration and gives me ideas of what I could do. So anyways, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I think that's really wonderful for like looking at the importance of the pollinators and just seeing how like myself, usually I'll see kind of like bumblebees, or like I see always hummingbirds with like snowberries. They're very tiny, delicate, like quite very small flowers, but just it just looks so like passionate and excited. Like it loves its job of being a pollinator. It's kind of like its head is like right inside the leaf, kind of like I just picture myself in the summer, like I want to like guzzle down some like cool iced tea or like drink something nice and cold. So I imagine during that must have been very much close to the heat wave, or at least during the hot summer months. So it's also, I like that it's often with pollinators, you might see like the wings as quite a focus, but this one, it's kind of, its motion and action is really the striking, instead of just like, we can see what they look like when they're still as their wings, but this one's just, yeah, as you said, a storytelling, it really kind of brings I just kind of picture like a character to it rather than just that stillness. It kind of has like it's my favorite nectar to drink in the summer or something.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a great photo. Yeah, I love this one. Finn?
Yes.
This is a great photo of the
thank you, yeah.
peeps. Different species, correct? At least one of them is different, I think.
I think there might be one of them, the one on the
left top there?
Yeah, I think it's the one on the left top. It has a little more kind of orangish.
Yeah, weird. Interesting. I didn't notice that the first time. So you see a good photo. I always look at it a second time and I see something new. But this is great. So where was this taken? This is really the evocative photo, I think.
At the mud flats, very early morning.
Yeah.
Water was fairly calm and they were doing, I guess, I'm not sure if for shorebirds you call them murmurations, but they're doing kind of the shorebird equivalent of murmurations across the water.
Yeah, it's very nice. And again, I mean, it emphasizes the importance of this place as a stopover for birds, or I mean, in this case, might actually be both birds who nest there, but also birds who stop over. So, and in large quantities sometimes. I'm assuming that's part of a flock, right?
Yeah, there was probably a flock of about 40, maybe.
Yeah. They're beautiful when they do the murmurations. It's extraordinary to watch it, and how coordinated the flying is. I mean,
it's very impressive. Yeah.
Nothing accidental about that flight and about how precise it is.
Yeah, actually, I wrote a paper for school in which I used some mathematics to show that the position that birds often fly in is kind of like the optimal position.
Yep.
It reduces their kind of energy output by about 40%.
Yeah, birds are amazing that way. I mean, they were pilots way before humans were, obviously. Yeah, no, it's a very lovely photo, and I love the fact that there's one of the birds, or two of the birds in particular, are quite focused, and the other ones are a little blurred from the motion. Looks like, you know.
Yeah, because I think I had my camera on shutter priority, and
yes.
It wasn't, I couldn't.
Which is the way it should be anyways. I mean, don't let anybody tell you differently. But sorry, I may have started a war.
Yes, I agree with you. This one doesn't. I don't.
I knew it.
I really love like how you were explaining a little bit about your paper, but just that, yeah, really the intelligence of animals and their, not only just thinking about their own, like self of how they'll, you know, it's not necessarily just like survival of the fittest where they're just looking out for themselves, but that community care that even though it like it's to the eye aesthetically, it's beautiful how they all fly together, but just that importance of that they're all working very much thinking about how everyone of their other you know, peers, I guess you could say, are all moving in motion together, that they're very precise and making sure that like they're not hitting and bumping in, like, you know, if humans are in some areas, if you're just crossing like a crosswalk, people might bump in or whatever, but they're very precise and organized, but at the same time, it's also helping like just caring about your surroundings and their other birds, their community. Beautiful photo.
Thank you.
I'm just looking at the top right bird. Do you see a very short bill there? That
yes.
Looks like a semi-palmated sandpiper.
Yeah.
And so the bottom ones could be westerns, and then the one on the top left that's a little brighter. And Rob, maybe you can let me know if I'm wrong here. I'm not sure. That could be a least sandpiper. So you could have all three sandpipers that we get at Maplewood just in the same photo, which is fabulous.
Yeah. That's actually what I think, but I'm not confident enough about sandpipers to say it, but I think you're right. The three species are there, which if that's the case, that's even more amazing as a photo, really.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I agree with Quentin. That's what I just put in the chat bar, is the least is the top left and the semi is the top right, and the rest are westerns.
And the thing this photo does too, so I'm getting really excited. I'm bird nerding out here, but the thing about this photo as well, when you look at the length of the bill in relation to the head, it really helps you see that they're different. And there's like three different ratios on this photo, which would support this idea that there's three different species. And it would be difficult to have this any other way than this flight shot, because just the angle of the bill is the same and the head is the same size for each of the birds. And so you really get a point of perspective here in terms of comparisons. Anyways, I'm going to stop now because I could probably go for hours on this topic, but sorry. I did say I was a birder as well as a photographer, right?
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Finn. We have one last photo. And it's
yes.
Broke.
Yeah. But I think after this, if we can go back, if
yeah.
Yes. We have one more photo. Yes, absolutely. Of the river otters. No, totally. That would be great. Is Janine Brooke here?
Yes, hi.
So again, this is a lovely photo. Where was it taken?
It was right by the entrance to that middle trail. I was just walking along the waterfront, and then there's got the little trail that heads up the middle. And I just heard some rustling in the leaves, and I thought it was just a towhee. And was surprised to see the little vole in there, because I normally only ever see them in the mouths of a coyote or being carried away by an owl or something like that. So it was kind of nice to see him foraging there.
Yes, actually, ironically, one of the photos that was picked that I took at Maplewood was precisely an owl, a little owl. A pygmy owl had grabbed a vole and was snacking on it. Yeah, not so lovely in that case in some ways, but amazing in another. Quite an experience, to be honest. But glad you got it alive, and I'm assuming it was alive when you left.
Yeah, I was just scurrying around underneath the leaves looking for food, I guess, and just eventually wandered off under a log. So.
And this is great that you see it in the leaves like this, because this is typically where they are. And you can see why, because in fact, I mean, if you're not paying attention, you don't see it.
Yeah.
And so the idea here is there's an amount of camouflage involved in there, and quite a neat photo.
Thanks.
Yeah, I really love it. It's really definitely that camouflaging that it has, for sure. Even like there's a little what I liked as well is there's like this yellow kind of stem, and it's brushing its fur, so it's almost exposing it's like kind of moving the shade out of its camouflage. You can see it's kind of like undercoat or skin there, but I definitely, something that I learned a lot more during my time from learning from other people at Maplewood Flats is about how there is like a really dire need to not have like rat poison or poison that kills and poisons rodent kind of species. Just really seeing at, I guess more people would say like the bottom of the food chain, but I'm sure this little creature has its own, its own life. It has its own gifts that it gives back to the ecosystem, but that we don't want to just kill off. Like I know, like of course rats are an issue, but like we don't want to necessarily have no rodent species, because when we have all of the different birds, and I know even like coyotes or other species will, like that's a very useful food source that we don't want to just poison and kill them because of that bigger impact that they have onto our more favorite beautiful looking owls or things like that, but it's still very much an important part of the ecosystem. So
I heard
just
some of the wineries actually employ owls. They actually have resident owls to handle the rodent problem, and they do a far better job than any type of rodenticide. So
that's correct.
We can have more owls around.
And you don't accidentally ingest the poison either, right, through the plants. And then the other thing too, and really, I mean, that's a good point you're making about not using this stuff, because the other thing is, of course, the apex predators, when they eat this, that poison becomes very concentrated and that will kill them. And so, in fact, we've had cases in North Van of owls dying of suspected poisoning. It's very difficult to prove, I know, and I understand that there's a debate on this, but it's hard for me to believe, especially when you get a cluster of deaths, that it can't be related to the poisoning of rodents. And so, there has to be other ways of finding it. And I mean, you're quite right about the Norwegian rats. Of course, they have no business being here, quite frankly, but again, poisoning them may not be the most effective way of getting rid of the problem. I mean, you're right that a lot of the wineries are using owls, and frankly, they're much better hunters, and they're much better at controlling the situation. So no, it's true. And it's just a lovely photo.
Thank you.
I have an interesting side comment on rodent control, if you like. See, so he's not, it's okay. Good thing I looked up then. I won't say who, but somebody who works for a mobile company that have mobile sites in the forest all over the place to service us all. And one of their more creative people decided to put out white gravel around the site because they'd been having so much trouble. And the white was a good contrast for the rodents, and the natural predators were then actually camping out there in order to pick them off.
That's very clever. Wow. Yeah. And because of course, then the additional advantage is you keep them out from specific areas.
Yeah.
So that's great. Actually, that's very clever. Yeah, you're right. Anything that would expose them means that they become vulnerable, and then they will either avoid the area entirely or get eaten. So, and then everybody's happy.
Okay, and now I'll get to go return back. I just wanted to also acknowledge everyone who is participating. Again, it is a little, we're thinking of ending about 8:30, but if you are able to still say thank you very much, who are still, even if you are still listening in, thank you all for continuing. And I even love very much seeing conversation in the chat as well. So I'll add you now, Jeffrey.
Hopefully my mic's working now. I'm on
Perfect.
a different computer.
There we go.
Right.
Good.
We can hear you very well.
Excellent. So the otters were looking at the rest of their group. I think there was about 5.
Okay.
And the one that's on the shore had caught a little flatfish and took it onto the shore to eat it. And so the one that's in the water took off to join the group, and the other one was eating away. And then I hear all this chirping out in the water. He looks up, picks up his fish, and then swims out to join the rest of the group. And yeah, it was kind of near, I guess it's known as Otter Point. I looked it up on the Maplewood Flats map, and kind of as you walk towards it, there's a short little trail that goes out towards the beach, and it was from there that I took that photo.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I actually have some photos of otters there as well. The problem is that the sunlight was so harsh that none of my photos really turned out nicely. So nothing like this. This is really nice.
I had to lift this one up a lot. They were really dark.
Yeah.
With the lighting that I had, and yeah, I was afraid that I might have overdone it, but maybe not.
No, and I think probably it was better if it was underexposed. In the case of I find for mammals in general, it's better. I tend to underexpose my photos quite a lot. So some people do find that my photos are underexposed. It's how I prefer it, to be honest, and it more approximates the way I see them. No, this is, I mean, the lighting there is good. Like the way you adjusted it was very good. But it's mainly also just, they're so intelligent, and it's so evident in this photo, and they're just so curious. And they hang around each other. Like they obviously, sometimes they'll get into fights, but obviously they seem to, like, I guess they're like brothers and sisters, you know, like 90% of the time they get along really well. But you just see that in this photo. There's just this, yeah. I mean, I love these animals, so in any event, not very neutral about this.
They were really talkative that day too.
Yes, yes. I love it when they start talking to each other.
That must have been very beautiful. Yeah, I love like kind of like movement photos of otters. Like I had seen some by Rob Alexander, who's not here, of very similar kind of like positioning, but it was one that had was leaning back with a crab in its mouth. It almost looked like it was like hysterically laughing or something. But I'm like, I think we're kind of maybe just myself, but maybe a lot of people are used to seeing the cute, cuddly side of otters as they pair up and float, like sleeping together. But I also like that, like that you said that they're looking at the rest of their family, or like the little community, that they're kind of like, what are you doing over there? Or maybe they must, like, as you said, that they're talking, like you could just kind of build in your imagination, like as like if you're a group of kids or a family out on the shore, like, what do you see over there? Well, I'm catching some fish. But I definitely love as well how it's the one on the left is kind of like, looks kind of this like it just kind of looks very like intelligent. And I know that otters use like rocks as tools to like crack things open, or definitely very intelligent and very special animals. So very beautiful, wonderful photo. I love all the texture of really, it just shows how they are that kind of amphibious, so that they'll be out on the land, and the hard, very like horribly rocky, barnacle-y rock. So very like humans, we never want to walk barefoot on the barnacles, but somehow they're perfectly made to go from the barnacles and then float innocently on their backs in the water. But really shows their habitat and their nature. Wonderful. I'm glad we were able to hear your voice.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think now we'll enter a question. It's time for questions, if anyone has any. Receive a free copy.
I will add just what was also, if you didn't see in the chat, but we're extending our exhibition for this, what we're looking at. So our Framing Our Relations Wild Bird Trust photo exhibition, it was going to be ending much sooner, but if you check that we have extended. So I'm really glad that each and every one of you who are able to share about that moment, about that day, about your experience and time being out on the flats. It's very, we might just get, nature photography that might be in any location, but for everything that was done here, it's really shared about very site specific. So I'm sure some of us who have been there might think, oh, I can picture exactly where you were. I've been in that exact moment. And then maybe if there's a trail you haven't taken, then that will bring your own interest to want to walk in those areas and get to see some of those moments as well. And so we have our screen share here. As we actually have 2 calendars coming out. So this one is our Coast Salish Birds 2022 calendar. So it was very, very exciting to hear the moments and the stories. And thank you, Pierre, for giving your insights. It was very wonderful. Thank you very much for your time and for your generosity to share. And you also were one of the hosts to our workshop. So that was a very beautiful, nice weather that day. We had great interaction with people, whether it was your first time or people who get to know the area.
I didn't know I had a photo in the calendar. That's cool.
Surprise.
I'm curious, what is the, do you keep track of the turnout in the Nature House for this exposition?
We're only doing rough guesstimates of people who are coming in, but we are open for 4 days and it's been very well attended so far, particularly on days where the rain tends to hold off, though we've been finding that people are quite sturdy with the rain these days. So we've had lots of people. And of course, in the Nature House, the photographs are on a much larger scale, so they have quite a big impact on the people who look at them. And the show is quite an experience for people. So it's gone very well.
Yeah, I do recommend it. It's a very different experience when you see it like photos. Good old-fashioned photos are they're nice to see that way. How long is it going to last? When is the show going to end now? Do you know the date?
Into the middle of December. Yeah, into December. Well into December.
So middle of December. Okay, that's good. Okay. Yeah. I will try to make it out. I can't guarantee anything. I have to say I'm glad I don't have to cross that bridge anymore. But if I can, I'll try to make it out.
Yeah, there's some of those that the details really pop when you see them in person.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that osprey in particular has some really good detail on it. Several of the other ones too.
Yeah. No, it's seeing photos it's quite nice to see them that way, actually.
Yeah, so I just brought up our 2 calendars up on the screen, just to let people know that some of the contributors to the exhibition will also be included in our 2022 Coast Salish Bird calendar. And that will be available by mail to all the contributors. And if you'd like extra copies, you can pre-order them on our website. Also this year, we're very excited because we're launching a second brand new calendar, which is the 2022 Coast Salish Wildflower Calendar, which Senaqwila has helped curate with Indigenous plants. And yeah, so there's that information for you if you're interested in collecting them.
Yeah, it's great to have something on plants, actually.
Yeah, it's very beautiful.
Especially for ignorant people like me.
Yes, both the calendars, they're very visually stunning. I'm really excited to see, even as for me who likes plants, to see how the birds interact, like in this photo with like eating, crab apples or berries. And then, yes, there is a little bit of knowledge shared on each of the months of the flowers. Well, it's nice close up of the beauty of the floral. There'll still be some as well, in addition, some Coast Salish plant knowledge. So very excited for this to be not only of seeing how we honor the birds that are within, seeing of it as a bird sanctuary, or what does that mean to us, but then looking at how as our show, framing our relations, so seeing each of these plants and animals as having very important roles in the ecosystem, and how we're, as humans, we're just part of the ecosystem as well. So how do we go in there and interact? So I want to raise my hands, and Kosalish teaching, we say Haichka or Hoichka, but as a way of honoring or giving thanks. So thank you everyone for attending. If there was any last questions, do feel free to jump in or leave anything in the chat as you wish as well. But thank you for everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Woo! Yeah. Yes, and congratulations to the photographers in particular. Wonderful work.
Yes.
Okay. We don't have the photos specifically for sale. We will be having cards, so as like a holiday card. I know that some of the ones that we've seen in today's feature will be featured as well. So if you want to purchase a card, you know, to send off to the holidays, it's not strictly Christmassy, but there are definitely like some of the ones we've seen with some red berries and very beautiful colors on the birds, or the ecosystem that will be a little festive on whichever you hope to use. So definitely there are, in that sense, a little bit of a print, but it says a kind of as a greeting card.
Okay.
Wonderful job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye now.
Okay.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.